Welcome to the Monday Motivation Spotlight, another inspiring episode featuring a person making a difference in Israel. Today, our special guest is David Levine. He is pronounced Levine, even though many people say Levine, who has undergone many areas in his life which none of us would want to be there. Yes, he's had a great life too. Don't get me wrong. He made aliyah in 2017 from Illinois, Chicago. And he used to be the owner of the Nut and Candy Store, or the Illinois Nut and Candy Store. So that's pretty cool, owning a nut and candy business, certainly for the family. And of course, there were great elements there as well as challenges. And then when David and his family decided to make aliyah, and he was traveling back and forth, you'll hear he shares with us in his inspiring story after many medical tests and events, and that's a warning to all of us as well, to pay attention to our body and to hear what's going on and to be aware and to get it treated or speak to a doctor. He was the first bone marrow transplant in Shaare Zedek Hospital and has undergone challenges through then, but has also pulled through, and with his resilience has built and is building his business where he's known as I Am Your Virtual Professional. And he goes on to assisting many business owners, small business owners, manage their business. So sit back, enjoy the inspiring story with David Levine. David, welcome to our Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm so happy and so excited to have you here. We've had a lot of contact over the last couple of years. I've met you through networking events that you've attended of mine, both in person and online. You're part of our Israel Networking Hub. And I'm delighted to spotlight your story here with our guests. So firstly, a big welcome.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you offering me this opportunity. It's very exciting, and I really enjoy your programming.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that. We enjoy having you. So let's go back to long before you made aliyah. Tell us a little bit about David growing up as a kid, growing up in the US, about your life there. Were you aware of Israel? At what stage did Israel become a reality, even thinking about making aliyah? So let's go back to the beginning.
So the beginning is, and from an aliyah story, I never really thought I was going to make aliyah. I went to Zionistic schools. I went to Camp Mosheva. When I was in college, I worked for the Federation as a volunteer to earn a free trip to Israel. I was definitely very rah-rah, and I was very involved. I was a president of my Hillel for 2 years. I went to day school. I was super involved in USY because I went to a conservative synagogue. And then after that, I was teaching bar mitzvahs, and I taught Hebrew school. And I used to joke I was my only friend that was able to work 7 days a week because I was either teaching bar mitzvahs in the synagogue, doing it privately, or I was leading junior congregation in a different shul. So it was one of those things where it was the running joke. I was working 7 days a week, all in synagogues or shuls. From the time I'd been in Israel to the time I returned was over 20 years.
So what was the key point in saying we're going to make aliyah? At the time, I assume you had a good time. Did you think of aliyah then and say, yes, it'll be on our radar at some stage in the future?
No, honestly, I never thought of it. It wasn't on my to-do list. It was definitely, I wanted to go back and visit, but not make aliyah. When I was introduced to my wife, somebody set us up, and she's, I want to make aliyah. And I'm like, I'm not interested.
Chose you nevertheless, right?
She chose me nevertheless. And then what's interesting is my grandparents were both Holocaust survivors. And
did they talk about their story? I'm curious to know.
So my grandfather passed away when I was like 3. So no, my grandmother had moments of talking, and she wasn't secretive about it. She was very open about that she went through the Holocaust. One of my childhood memories is she was in the Lodz Ghetto. And so my grandmother and mother took us to the Lodz Ghetto reunion in the Catskills in New York at one of the hotels. And looking back, I think I was like maybe 13, 14, 15. I don't remember what it was. My sister and I had a great time because for us, it was vacation. And as an adult, looking back at something like that, you realize the historical significance of it. And you realize what these people went through and what these people, the connections, they were able to meet people they hadn't seen in generation, in decades. And it was a big deal. But what happened was every year there were in Chicago, where I'm originally from, there was an organization called Shaare Zedek Hospital. And every year I went with my grandmother and mother and sister, usually, to this big Holocaust commemoration. And I remember it was at one of the synagogues, and it was in one of the old traditional synagogues that when they open the door for the high holidays, you get 1,500 people in, and they packed the room. And I remember going year after year with the family. And as I got older, the crowd started getting thinner.
Because
And,
many of them were just no longer alive, sadly.
yeah, and it was one of these
Right.
things where I said, okay, it's time to get involved. And they had a little packet. And in the back of the packet of the program, it said, who wants to volunteer? And I responded, hey, I'm game. And it went from hoping I would just help a little bit to becoming I used to joke this was my full part-time job that I didn't get paid for. There was a feeling of this is important. And there was a feeling that I'm helping grow this. And there was the feeling that there is, I don't want to say the sense of guilt. There was the sense of, I felt like I had to do it for my grandparents. And I was happy doing it. And this gets to my aliyah component. How did they compensate us for all the time we did? We got to go to Federation luncheons or dinners or Federation events, which were nice or not, but we had to show up and smile and
Right.
everyone.
I'm a firm believer that everything we do, whether it's paid or as a volunteer, they're all pieces in a puzzle that
Totally.
turn us and make us into the person that we are today. So I've no doubt that a lot of the stuff that you gained, even as a volunteer, really assisted you in many areas of your life moving forward.
Totally. And it's the reason that we made Aliyah, because one of the things they gave us were tickets to a premiere of this movie, if you can see it. It's about the story of Hungarian Jewry and how one day everything was great, and then one day it was not. And I looked at my wife as we walked out of the theater and said, we're making Aliyah. And she was like, yeah. And then I said to my family, my parents, shortly thereafter, go, we're going to make Aliyah. And they're like, yeah. There is the right time and there's definitely the wrong time. And we thought it was the right time. Plus, we had a business we needed to sell, which
Right.
is
So
a
let's
whole other
actually hop
story.
to that. I do want to talk about that because that sounds so exciting. Just the name. You had a business in Illinois, the Nut and Candy. So tell us all about it. I'm sure many that are from there do remember it at the time. Tell us a little bit about it. And that was like a very big element of your entrepreneurship and your business days.
It was about 18 years of my professional life. So what happened was I had rode the corporate ladder. I graduated college, thought I was going to be a high school teacher. It did not work out. Went into the high tech, IT back then is what we called high tech, and was very fortunate. Rode the dot-com wave until the dot-com wave went boom. And as a reporter in Chicago once called me, she said I was a dot-com refugee. And
Oh,
she
that's
called
a
it
cool
dot
way of
bomb.
describing it.
Yeah, it literally went from you were working crazy hours, making ridiculous money at your age to being unemployed and unemployable because they looked at your salary and they're like, you were making that and you were competing against other people who had 5 more years of experience than you and you had the same title they had. So it was really a challenging time. And I was unemployed for 8 months. I was very grateful. A friend of mine, they always talk about networking, networking works. A friend of mine got me a job in a municipal government, which I was grateful to get anything. And it was a ridiculous pay cut, but still I was like, hey, it's a job. I was newly married at the time. And I was sitting there going, okay, I'll deal with it. And while I was there, everybody who's from the States will know what I'm talking about when I say Dilbert cartoons. It's like a business cartoon of this stereotypical office of you're not allowed to excel. You kind of work within your box. And that's exactly what government work was for me. This was my box, so to speak. And when I was in the dot-com world and even when I was doing consulting at a corporation, we were rewarded for thinking outside the box. And the more you were creative and did creative problem solving, the more you excelled and you were compensated and rewarded. In the government, it was the opposite. You were not compensated and rewarded the same way. So I started looking for a job. And while I was looking for a job. It was called Illinois Nut Outlet at the time. And it came up for sale. My wife had worked there in high school, and we bought it.
Was it the same type of store that you just took over, or you changed it totally?
So we changed the name from Illinois Nut Outlet to Illinois Nut and Candy. And one of the major things we did immediately was change the entire atmosphere of the store. So one of the first customers came in, and I knew the store had a reputation for not being as customer friendly as it should be. And one of the customers was a woman. She came in and said to me, she goes, I'm giving you another chance. She goes, I taught my kids the word boycott because of your business. And
wow. Okay.
It wasn't my business.
And now that I've gotten to know you, and we will just do fast forward a little bit, but I don't want to get into the details now, that from our conversation this week and the networking event that we had, and you've just come out with your book, which is really how important customer service and focus is to you. So we'll talk about that in a while as we get to that part. But I want to say that obviously, and I'm assuming that you felt it then as well, that you were a stickler for giving good customer service.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't call it customer service anymore. I call it customer experience. My first corporate job was working at a customer service desk, at a help desk. And when you're working at a help desk, it's all about customer service. And I kept all the testimonials that people sent to my supervisor at the time. And I actually keep them all in a book, and I have them on my website as well, that talk about the level of customer service that I gave. But it really wasn't customer service I was giving. It was a customer experience.
So please just share with our viewers, some of them may not be so familiar with the difference between customer experience and customer service.
So customer service is when you bring your car to the dealership and they service it. And you get your car back and you pay the bill and you leave. Customer experiences, it starts when you go to buy a car at the dealership and how you're greeted when you walk through the door and what the whole atmosphere is. And then how you're treated during the sales process. Are you treated as a transaction or are you treated as part of the family? And then after the transaction takes place, do they follow up with you, or are you just another sale and the salesperson goes, check? And then it's like when you bring your car in for service, are they bringing you are you dropping your car off? And after you drop your car off, do they just expect you to pay? Or do they explain the whole problem to you before they did anything? And how did they treat you? Did they leave a piece of chocolate, not in Israel because it would melt, but something on your dashboard? Or they have a nice
air-conditioned room with tea and coffee and free Wi-Fi.
It's all how, make a difference. When we bought our car here, there was no customer experience. There was no customer service. I remember once waiting at the dealership for hours while they serviced my car, and the Wi-Fi was spotty, and where they had the coffee station, there was no coffee. And that's the whole experience. And I chose a car dealership because we all have cars, and it's something that everybody could relate to. But think about that. I tell you, the name of the book is Old School Service, New School Tools, which I'm super excited. I'm going to have to give myself a plug. We were #1 on Amazon for new books that released as of today.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You know what? I was going to wait until later, but let's talk about it now. So we talk about customer service.
The whole idea is I started writing the book a long time ago. And then when I picked it up and life happened. The store didn't sell when I thought it would sell. And then COVID, and I got sick, which we could talk about in a little bit. When I picked it up, getting better from being sick, and I hired a publisher, and she said, the book's kind of stale and old. You need to freshen it up. There's AI now. So in addition to the book, because it's Old School Service, New School Tools, I believe in embracing AI. AI has a place. AI does not replace how you make people feel, because people still expect to be treated in a certain way. Technology changes, human nature does not. And that's important, because with the book, I created AI interactive tools that help people improve their customer service, whether it's a tool that I have that you could pick up your phone and take a picture of yourself and it rates how good your smile is, whether it's helping you create answers to common problems. The idea is not to use it as a crutch. The idea is to use it as a helper. The idea is to have you read the book, you get some great ideas, you get checklists, which is all important. And then if you want to take it to the next level, there's a tool you can purchase in order to help you take it to the next level. And one of the things that I'm doing is part of my book release. I'm giving some free webinars. And actually, one of the webinars was inspired by you when you let me speak at the panel discussion a while back. I changed the name to How to Get Stuff Done. So I'm doing that one. I'm having follow-up without being pushy, which also connects to another one of my AI interactive tools that I'm selling as a separate suite. And then I'm having a Secret to Customer Success webinar as well, which is not combined to any tool. It's simply something that I thought everybody wants to know how to deliver better customer success and a better customer experience.
Something that we come usually from the old country with a much better customer experience and customer service level than what we get here. So firstly, I wish you much hatzlacha, everything of the best with your book. Is it available also as a paperback as well as an ebook?
So right now it's on sale as a Kindle. It's early release.
Early release?
Pre-sale is what they call it. And then it'll get downloaded July 31st. And then there'll be paperback books that people will be able to purchase as well.
Okay, amazing. Hatzlacha Rabbah. So I want to go back to this nut and candy store because it must be so cool to have a father running, as a kid, running a nut and candy store. Let's talk more about that. I'd like to hear more about your journey there, how it evolved. You said you were interviewed by different news channels then.
So owning a nut and candy store, I always used to tell people, first of all, I had the greatest tagline at the end of every conversation. I said, they have a sweet day. And when people would ask me how business was, I would either say it's sweet or nutty, depending on how my day was, because you never want to complain. You always want to put a happy face on. And the truth was, those are great one-liners and everything like that. The reality is, it was a retail business, and retail's tough. And anybody that says retail's not tough is not being honest with themselves or anybody else. And
I can identify with you, by the way, on that, and I think we have spoken about it. I've never owned a retail outlet, but I have many years experience working in retail, and I get it. I can totally get it.
Yeah, and so one of the things I realized I needed to do was figure out a way to grow the business. And one of the ways I did it was through networking and bringing in corporate accounts. Because if you come in and you want to get a gift for your husband, your aunt, your uncle, your kids, everybody will get, this one likes that, this one likes whatever. And the difference is corporate accounts, they don't really care. They want it to look nice. They want it to taste good. They want it to be fresh. They want it to be delivered on time.
And of course, the numbers are larger. You have bulk orders and repeat orders.
And it's a lot easier to do repeat orders than it is to do one-off. So like for us, I was very fortunate. Fox News dubbed me the Kosher Willy Wonka. And being dubbed the Kosher Willy Wonka was awesome. Most candy businesses in the United States have Christmas and Valentine's Day. Those are their big ones, and a little bit of Easter. But what I looked at, the corporate deal was, it was a numbers game. And the more number you're able to do the same, it's a lot easier to pack 30, 40, 50, or 100 of the same thing than it is to make one-offs. So we were lucky. I had Rosh Hashanah as a corporate holiday. I had Hanukkah/Christmas, which was another holiday.
Which is big
we had
as well.
Purim and Pesach.
Purim must have been very big for you with the Jewish community.
Purim was the biggest 2 days. It was 2 days technically, but like all the holiday seasons, I grew them. So for me, Christmas started at Thanksgiving. And so I grew the month from just being like a week of gift giving to over a month of gift giving. And then for Purim, we started delivering gifts starting a week before Purim, depending on the calendar. And I explained to people that you only needed to technically give 2 for Mishloach Manot on the day. And I gave them discounts to deliver early versus deliver on the day of, which I charged a premium for. When we bought the store, they did not have a Passover kitchen or a Pesach kitchen. I bought equipment and we started doing Pesach. But it's hard. And then anybody tells you retail's not hard, the hours are goofy. The pros are you have some true flexibility. I was very fortunate. I was able to coach my kids' soccer teams and I was able to disappear to go to my kids' school, whatever, when I needed to, if it wasn't during the holiday season. But during the holiday season, my wife was a Jewish version of a
The whole
saint.
family probably came on board and was
They were
assisting.
younger, but it was one of those things. My wife would let me disappear and I would work, leave the house crazy early and come home crazy late and disappear for hours. I remember one Purim season, we were so busy, I worked 120 hours in a week, and that's with being Shomer Shabbos. So you could do the math.
Right,
And
divided by 6 days. Wow. No,
six and
look,
a
as
half, because
as we
Shabbos
know,
ends and,
there's flexibility, but everyone knows that when you're an entrepreneur and when you are your own business owner, an independent business owner, we work more hours, longer hours. So that is well known.
and I used to joke, I had the worst boss in the world, myself.
Wow, were
Because
you were really tough on yourself?
you hold yourself to a higher expectation.
Yeah, for good and for bad.
Yeah.
So let's move along because we've got so much that we can talk about. And your life hasn't always been rosy. You were seriously ill. Please share with us a little bit about that and how that changed your whole life, your whole perspective on things.
There was COVID, then I got sick, and then we sold the store. And so what happened was we were supposed to sell the store when we made aliyah. The deal fell through, and I was living on an airplane going back and forth once or twice a month, managing the store remotely. As I was going back and forth, and to all the guys listening, we should not be stupid. Listen to your bodies. When you don't feel good, go see a doctor. I kept saying, oh, it's jet lag. I'm getting older. I'm older and it's jet lag. And I didn't go to a doctor. And then I started getting gout and I started having pain in my neck and shoulders and arms and went to a doctor. I went to a doctor in Israel who said, oh, you need neck surgery. And I was like, no way, I'm doing that. And then I went to another doctor. He got fibromyalgia. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then my neck was getting really bad. So my wife was like, well, I still had insurance in the States. You really should go see the doctor from the synagogue who was very non-cut happy. Even though he was a surgeon, he was not into it. And I still remember it was a Friday that I had an MRI in the morning, went, had the MRI, and in the afternoon, I got a phone call from a nurse. And she's like, you need to go see your family doctor. And I was like, why? And she's because you have, and she gave me the technical term, and you start banging into your keyboard, which I do not recommend anybody to do either. And short term is I had MDS, which is a hematological disorder. And then the next thing you do when you do that is you type in, and she's, what is that? And it comes up that it could be turned into leukemia. And then a bunch of 4-letter words go through your mind. And you're like, what's the expectancy of leukemia? And then you see that this is all I'm talking around the phone. And you're like, oh, I had 6 months to live. This is crazy. And I ended up calling my sister's uncle-in-law, who was an oncologist, and he looked up he worked at the same hospital network, pulled up my records and was like, hey, you need to see my partner tomorrow. This was on Sunday. And you need to see my partner tomorrow. And I saw his partner and he's, yeah, you definitely have MDS. And you're like one of the youngest people on the books that's ever had it. And he said to me when he knew I lived in Israel, he's, so where do you live? And I'm like, outside of Jerusalem. He's perfect. There's a Professor Rowe who's the godfather of hematology. And you got to see him. So my wife got me in to see Professor Rowe. And when I came back, and Professor Rowe told me 3 letters that I kept hearing was NTW, not to worry. And they're like, you're young, don't worry. This normally doesn't do anything for 10 to 15 years. We'll just monitor you. Every 3 months, you come in for a blood test. And I was like, okay. I didn't feel great, but I didn't feel like, as long as I knew I wasn't dying, I was like, whatever.
Your symptoms actually, you were in pain when you moved, when you
I was in
walked.
pain. I was exhausted. I wasn't sleeping well, but none of that was really like all those symptoms were also because I was traveling all the time. And
Right.
so I didn't really put one and one together. And I was like, okay, maybe this is just what getting old is. And then I was back in the States and I was really tired and I really didn't feel good. Really didn't feel good. except this time, unlike being a stupid guy, I contacted the doctor. They kept me in the hospital for 3 days, ran a whole bunch of tests, came back to Israel. It was still during COVID, so we were in Bidud for, I think it was 10 days. Went back to the hospital here to see Professor Rowe. He told me he was retiring, and he handed me off to, at the time he was doctor, now he's Professor Ofran at Shaare Zedek. And after a period of time, he looked at me and said, you know, very quickly in October, you need a bone marrow transplant. And I totally trusted him.
So he was the first one that had told you that? No one said anything?
Well, they
to
told
you
me that I would
about
need a
that?
bone marrow transplant in 10 or 15 years. I was really sick. I was walking around. For anybody in the medical profession, my hemoglobin was under a 7, and it's supposed to be around a 15. And they're all shocked that I was walking around, and I just kept going. I felt it. I was exhausted. I didn't feel good. I used to call it the drums. I didn't understand. I kept hearing the drums in my head. It's one of the symptoms. You just hear your heartbeat pinging in your head. And
Wow.
I
So
went
you
through.
were told that you needed a bone marrow transplant. Did you go for second opinions, or by then you knew that seeing somebody had said it before, that
They
this
had
was
said it in
something
the
that needed to be
States,
done?
and Professor Rowe, I don't even remember. Everything comes a blur. Professor Ofran said you really need it. And I think Professor Rowe was like concurred. And I really trusted Professor Rowe because I was told he was the godfather of hematology and that he's the most respected hematologist. And then I
Mhm.
saw Professor Ofran, and I saw the way he interacted with people. And not just the way he interacted with me, but the way he interacted with everybody. And I was like, okay, I really trusted the guy. He's a special human being, and he really cared. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, if this is what he
So
said,
fast forward, tell us a little bit about what happened then.
they sent me for biotherapy, which is a form of really, they don't call it chemo, they call it bio. I went through biotherapy and had to have a bone marrow transplant. They found I had a donor.
We're talking about it in 2 minutes as if it's in and out, but I've no doubt that it was over a good couple of months.
From October to April.
Okay, so in that time you were dealing with this, I'm assuming, weren't able to fly back at all or
No,
manage
I
the
wasn't
business.
flying
Did
back
you
and forth.
close this? Did you sell the
No,
business?
I was managing it remotely and wasn't doing a very good job managing it because I was really sick. But I was just, thank God I had really good staff at the time. And I'm appreciative towards them and for them. They did a good job.
They did
They
their
did it,
best.
they did the best they could. And I was grateful for what it was. I really
Hmm.
was not in any position. In April, I had my bone marrow transplant. And they tell you it's about a year for recovery. Mine was a lot longer than that. And I had what was called graft versus host disease. And for anybody in Israel who sees me not working is wondering why I'm in a wheelchair, the reason is because the way they treat graft versus host disease is they pump you up with steroids. And steroids give you something called avascular necrosis. And most people get it in one joint. Throughout my medical stay in the hospital, I kept hearing I was special because if anything could happen, it happened to me. Whether it was good, like being the first bone marrow transplant at Shaare Zedek, which is a huge deal. And
Wow, you were the first one? You were the first
yeah,
transplant there?
I used to
Wow.
joke. I said, I'm going to be, when they asked if I wanted to be the first, I said, for sure. And they're like, why are you so confident? I go, if you're the first, they can't let you die because they got to keep you alive because it's bad for business and bad for stats. If you're the 1,000th, it happens. But they kept me, thank God. We talk about Hakarata Tov and all the positives. They really went above and beyond. And I know that some of it was because I was the first, and there is some truth to it that they probably took a little bit better care of me because I was the first. I know that not every bone marrow transplant has the president of the hospital show up the morning of the transplant to wish you luck and checks in on you on a regular basis. But that being said, and they don't hang balloons in everybody's room the first before you have your transplant that morning, and they don't have the photographer come in and all that stuff. But forget
Wow.
all that aside, I've been in the hospital more than most people should be in their entire life. And I've seen the way that they, and this is not a commercial for Shaare Zedek, but really when I saw that they got the 200 million or whatever the crazy amount was from the guy that owned WhatsApp that sold it and made the donation, it really did my heart well because the hospital really is an incredible place. They take incredible care of people. Doctors get all the accolades. And when I talk about in my book, in my acknowledgments, I thank Professor Ofrin and the staff. And I can't name all the nurses, but the nurses really are the ones that make the big difference.
So, how has that impacted your life today? And we could go on for a long time. And I do want to talk about your business, what you're doing today, but how has it impacted your life? The fact that you've went through all this, you were a healthy, regular guy walking around, running around, and then to be in a wheelchair. And around the house, can you walk around slowly without the wheelchair, from what I understand?
Yeah, I can walk around the house a little bit. I could get from point A to point B in the house. I have to make sure that I either have my cane with me or I stay near a wall. I lose my balance a bunch.
That you can hold on to something.
So that, you know, like when I
How
lose
has it
balance and I
impacted your life,
fall.
your family life, your business, your everything?
In some ways, COVID is the best thing that ever happened for me professionally, because having a business where you're saying I'm going to work virtually would have been an impossibility 10 years ago. And now, because of COVID, working virtually and with most of my accounts in the States, it's really not that big of a deal because I'm your virtual professional. So my target market is small business because I understand what small business owners are going through. And the reality is small business owners don't have the extra money at the end of the month. They have a extra body sometimes, whether it be an in-house person or an extra consultant. So the way that I built my whole model was I do a combination of things. I originally said I was going to do small business consulting, and nobody understood what the heck small business consulting was. And I realized nobody understood that. So now I say I do digital marketing with an emphasis on search engine optimization, WordPress websites, customer experience, and that gets me into the door. Once I'm in the door and I'm helping them with building a landing page, building a website, getting them found through SEO, GEO, AIO, or EIEIO, as the for old McDonald song goes. They kind of keep changing the acronym. What I realize is as you're helping them with one thing, people need help with another thing. You know, the adage, people do business with people they know and trust. And once you've earned their trust by offering a great customer experience with one project, they're very open to giving you another project to work on that may or may not be in your wheelhouse of what your banner behind you says. I'm Google certified, HubSpot certified, which is all great. But once you're helping somebody, they don't really care what certifications you have. They don't care that I have a master's degree in education or a project management degree. And that doesn't matter. They care what you could do for them, how you could help them, how you could help them grow their business, how you could help them get found. But more importantly, people want to be listened to.
Absolutely. I so agree with you on that. And there's a saying as well in business that, and people that have come to my workshops have heard me talk about this, the idea of features or benefits. And that's exactly what you said. A feature is that you're certified in these different things, but the benefits are what you can do with it, what you can do for them, and how can they benefit, what's in it for them. And that's exactly how you just worded it in a practical way.
It's so true. People want help. And sometimes they don't articulate the help that they need. The greatest intro for me is when somebody, it makes a warm introduction that's a client and said, he helped me, he could help you. When I was writing the book, I was originally putting in testimonials that I had copied off of either Google or Yelp, both the good and the bad, because I'm not going to say that every single interaction my staff and I had was perfect. And I think that makes the book a little more real. But I realized they're going to go, oh, he just owned a candy store. What does he know? Now in the book, I have testimonials for my consulting business, and which goes to show that the same principles I applied right out of college working as a help desk person, and then what I applied working at a large consulting firm that was multinational, and then those same principles that I applied working for a bulk of my career in small business, and now helping small businesses, it doesn't matter because certain things don't change and people want to be treated a certain way.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you there. As I said earlier, every little piece is a piece in the puzzle that is going to help you towards your business now and towards who you are. So looking forward, looking at your vision, what do you, David, want for yourself? What do you see for yourself besides good health, Bezrat Hashem, and we wish you only good health? What do you see for yourself in the future? Where are you looking to go?
To continue growing my business organically. One of the things I'd really like to start doing more is speaking. And I really feel that I have something to give people. And I really feel that using the book as a platform in order to get in front of people will help me grow the business and scale it in a way that by giving corporate training. At the same time, I'm looking at the book as a way to really grow and get back to what I really wanted to do is being a teacher once upon a time. And I really kind of see that now I'm able to teach just a whole different way.
And just as an ending point, before I ask you how people can reach you, I'd like to just talk about the mindset and resilience that you must have developed as a person going through this challenge with obviously the back and forth before you got sick, but most important, when you got ill, and the mindset and the resilience that you learned from it, which I've no doubt also assists you when going through challenges in business now. Can you just talk a little bit about that before we end?
So I don't like to lose. And I remember many years ago, I competed in the hamburger contest and in the salad contest for the business and the chamber that I competed with. And you're very competitive. And we did win. We won the dessert category. And I don't like to lose. I like to win. And so going back and forth when I had the other business was the idea that I had to meet those numbers. Getting through being sick, it was a different type of winning. It's really easy to tap out when you're as sick as I was. But when you have a wife and kids, that's not an option. And you don't have the option to tap out. And you draw your strength from your family. And rather than looking to be the largest kosher candy store in the Midwest, you're now saying, okay, I'm not going to be the largest kosher candy store. I'm going to get through this. Now, that being said, once I ended up in the wheelchair, I'm not going to lie, it was really hard. And I'm learning to accept not being able to go for a walk and doing the things I want to do. Am I totally, as they say, shadeh with it? No, I don't think anybody would be. I think I'd be lying if I said I was. But there's a certain level of acceptance that you learn to live with it. And is it my first choice? Absolutely not. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
And I'm sure you've learned to appreciate other things and the little things that maybe you would have taken for granted before. That in some ways makes us a better person. Not that we should have this experience or have to undergo it.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where they take every stone to be a stepping stone, not a tripping stone, or whatever the expression is. It's hard.
Right.
And I'm not going to say it's not. But, you really have to take the challenges one day at a time and look to succeed.
Look to succeed 100%. David, we salute you and just wishing you everything of the best with good health. How can people reach you? Give your email address, website.
So you could find me at imyourvirtualprofessional.com. And you could also find me on LinkedIn. You could look for David Levine. And if you put I'm Your Virtual Professional, I post on a regular basis. I know you have your Monday motivational spotlight, which I appreciate you having me on. I post my Monday musing every Monday. I have a business idea every Wednesday. I have my spotlight on success. I try to post every Thursday. I'm very active out there. And on Tuesdays, because you can't let a day of the week get by you, I actually have my glutenfreeisrael.com, which
we did not actually have time to talk about, but unfortunately we do not have time. But for people that are interested, go to glutenfreeisrael.com. Is that it?
And I have a Facebook page as well. And I'm sure you'll put all my connections in your comments section.
Yes, exactly.
I really do appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much. And to everybody, have a very great day.
Only good health and peace and quiet. Bezrat Hashem.
Bezrat Hashem. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for being a very interesting and inspiring guest today on our Monday Motivation Spotlight. I'm Lesley Kaplan. Thank you to our sponsors, Eggert & Cohn Insurance, and to Lali's Flower Boutique in Jerusalem. And I will see you next week on the Monday Motivation Spotlight, every week bringing you an inspiring individual making a difference in Israel. Have a good, safe day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.